Hello and welcome to the Urban Baristas podcast, the show that talks about all things coffee. I'm Braden, Head of Design and E-commerce at Urban Baristas. In today's episode, we'll be speaking with Andi Flintoff about his personal journey at Urban. Today, I'm joined by co-host Hugh Wardrope. Andy, thanks so much for making time to join us. How are you?
No worries, thanks for having me. I'm good, thanks.
So tell us a bit about your background. How did you start at Urban Baristas, your development through the company, and what are you doing currently?
Yeah, so I joined in October 2019. Actually, exact same day as Erica. So yeah, I've been about 2 and a bit years. Oh, that's a call. Oh, sorry, that's a call from Matt.
Just trying to figure out someone's phone there.
Yeah,
I thought I was silent. Sorry.
that's all right.
That was Matt though, so we should probably take that or somebody.
Oh, we can do it after.
We'll call him after.
So
yeah.
Sorry. So I joined October 2019. Just working at the Wapping site. I remember saying to Hugh, like, my first couple of days, like, this is a really well-run shop, you know. Like, so I'm really happy to be working with like quite competent staff and like a nice, calm culture.
And where were you before Urban?
Oh man, I had a really interesting 2019. I was working directly before Urban. I was working at like the worst run pub in the world, just down at the Railway Tavern. Actually, there were people drinking on shift and just having really taking the piss. I remember just being like, sorry, I'm not working here anymore. Gave my 0-hour notice and just left. But and before that, I was actually at a coffee shop near the Bands Green site, Hot Milk.
Okay, is that
so
how
that's
you
another
came across Urban?
Yeah, I was actually, I remember going up there and buying like a bacon brioche.
Nice.
And being like, oh, this is really good. That was kind of a big year for me coffee wise, because before that job I was at a very specialty Greek run place in Homerton, which is where I kind of learned quite a lot about that. So
is that how you got into coffee at this Greek place?
Yeah, I would say that was like sort of my in-depth intro. Like my employer there was, you know, she was working on shift with us and she was so precise. I remember we had to, you know, weigh each shot within 1/10 of a gram or chuck it out kind of thing. And it was like it was really intense, but I'm so grateful for everything she kind of put into me there because like it's sort of stayed with me and it's kind of given me like a real interest in like precision specialty coffee.
So talk us through what you're actually doing now at Urban Baristas.
So right now I'm the production roaster for Urban, and it basically involves ordering the green coffee, roasting it to specified profile and delivering it to sites and sort of generally managing the quality overall.
So would you say being at Urban, your passion for coffee's bloomed even further?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I feel like, it's really fun being part of a small growing company like Urban, where I can sort of bring my knowledge, but it's also like, it's speciality, but it's also quite a relaxed environment. So I feel like in coffee shops before, there's sort of been this like, oh, who's better than who, and who's like knows more than this and knows more than you, and it's like it just feels really like, it just feels really flat in Urban, and like, but we're still quite passionate about just producing good quality stuff.
Exactly, we care, but we don't go over the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's not that snobbishness that sometimes you feel sometimes when you're in these like, I almost didn't feel like. Some coffee shops, I'm like, am I cool enough to walk in here? You know, like, I never feel that at Urban. Like, it's like, am I like hipster enough to be in this? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So you're currently roasting everything for us at the moment. So we spoke about that previously in a podcast before this. Hugh, did you ever do any roasting yourself before we got Andy to come along and do something?
I started with Veronica. I had a bit of a go on the roast, but to be honest, I wasn't very good at it. So I left it to the experts. I think Veronica started, and then Andy took over, and I think you learned from Lottie at Tate, didn't you?
Yeah, Lottie was very hands-on with the training. She took us through everything step by step. So yeah.
So tell us about your process of learning to roast, Andy. When did you start roasting, and you enjoying it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been great. I remember it was lockdown of 2021, January, and I was on furlough, and I was like, finally got like an excuse to, because I couldn't work in the Wapping site, so Vero invited me to come, see how the roasting was done, and so basically got started that way. It was really, I mean, I was quite afraid at first. I thought everything was going to explode if I did it wrong,
Yeah,
but
it's quite daunting to start.
Yeah, like this big machine with a huge like gas fire going into it. It's like really scary stuff. And all these switches that you don't know what it does.
It's just the starting. I mean, remember I did it, like all the things you had to go through to start the roaster.
And but it started to take on like an intuitive sort of feel. Like I remember thinking it's like kind of reminded me of like a video game, like timing things correctly and adjusting, pressing buttons at the right time, so it kind of started to feel a bit more natural as things went on. Yeah.
Can you kind of talk us through how you would say roast the espresso? I mean, I've seen the computer.
Yeah.
There's graphs absolutely everywhere. I've got no idea what's going on there.
Yeah. Oh man, the screen interface can look really scary at the first look, but basically what's happening is there's 3 stages to roasting any coffee. There's a drying stage where the green coffee basically soaks up the heat and the moisture starts to evaporate. Then you get into sort of the middle stage, which is called the Maillard, where you sort of see like a yellowing from the green coffee.
Yeah.
And some of the flavor is sort of developed there. And then the third stage is more of the key stage, where the heat starts to come out from the coffee, and it sort of expands and cracks. And a lot of variation comes into the flavor in the development stage, the third stage. So roasters will be they'll be looking at the whole heat curve, but particularly paying attention to the last like 10% of the roast, because that's where the heat is most intense and the most chemical reactions are happening.
So correct me if I'm wrong as well. Obviously, with espresso, decaf, filter, they're all going to have different roast profiles. Can you talk us through what exactly would be different about those?
Yeah.
Why are they different?
So, I mean, generally, so espresso and, drinking coffee that way, it sort of comes out of an Italian, I believe, sort of like methodology. So espresso would be dark roasted to lengthen preservation and generally have like a roasted sort of dark flavor. When third wave kind of specialty coffees started, as I understand it, started looking into more light roasts. Yep. That kind of took on a desire to maybe preserve a few of the more delicate qualities in a coffee. So instead of roasting it to the max, you would try and preserve a bit more of the acidity or a bit more of the sort of like unroasted, I don't know, like less developed qualities. So filter as well, it focuses more on the fruitiness, the acidity. So you want to apply less heat overall.
Okay.
But you also want to make sure you don't roast it for too long as well, so you preserve more of the fruitiness and acidity. Yeah.
So obviously roasting quite a few different coffees at the moment takes quite a bit of time to do that. What would you say is your favourite type of coffee that we are roasting currently?
So I think I guess my favourite, I don't know, like most interesting one is the Bondi Beach, because you have to pay really close attention to particularly the end process, where because of the nature of the bean, it just requires a little bit more heat at the end than the others. So most of your coffee curves, they sort of just like quite natural.
Yeah.
I'm just making an arc with my finger. It's not filmed, but the Bondi Beach sort of has like a little bump at the end.
Okay.
And it just sort of demonstrates how you kind of like having an understanding of how the heat is applied at every stage is like really important. So yeah.
So even a minor change in the heat is going to change how the coffee tastes?
Yeah, particularly at the end. I don't know why exactly the Bondi requires that little bit more. It's just the intricacies of the bean and where it's from and how it handles the heat. But yeah. So.
What's your favorite type of brew method currently? What's your favorite coffee, your go-to?
I mean, at home, I'm like a V60 drinker. I think part of the enjoyment is just the process. Yeah. It kind of, I would say, like, if you're in a coffee shop, the serving suggestion is like a good book. Yeah. Because it's like, if you order it for takeaway, it's like, you have to wait at least 5-6 minutes, so you might as well just take your time and have it in. So yeah.
Have you got any funny stories about people ordering a V60?
Oh gosh,
not realizing what it is.
It's like when a customer orders V60, you know that they want a good filter.
They're genuinely into coffee.
Genuinely they do. Sometimes I wonder if they know exactly how it's being done and that it takes a while. I mean, like, I feel bad sometimes for Americans who will, like, it's similar to a pour over, and like, so they come into the store and kind of don't realize that it's the barista's going to have to make their drink if it's busy, and like they're going to have it in the background of their mind and serve 3 or 4 other people. Yeah. So there's been some horror stories, but it's always turned out okay in the end, but yeah.
You tend to get those customers who don't actually know what a V60 is.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually really simple. Like a V60, it sounds like it's just a V at 60 degrees, so it's just a Japanese, like,
filter,
brew design. And so it's like, that's just how they determined that was the, optimal way of filtering a coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
And have you got any absolutely funny stories about anyone over your time?
Oh Urban? Gosh.
Let's talk customers here.
Yeah, I mean, the customer's always right. That's the saying, and I would stick to that as a service mindset. But I remember this one time in Wapping, this Russian lady she'd gone to the bathroom, and I was on the floor serving different flat whites, different people, and she came out of the bathroom absolutely convinced that I had stolen her wallet, and I was just like, ma'am, I assure you that I do not know where it is, and I would not do that, and it was just really like, She had I don't know how she convinced herself, but it was that was the last we saw of her for a good while, at least, I think. So that was a bit scary.
Always get a few interesting characters coming into Urban. I remember you were downstairs in Middlesex and used to have same lady every morning. For about an hour or so.
I remember we placed a bet that like there'd be like a third lockdown because it wasn't anything to do with COVID. It was the government trying to see how much we would obey them. But I haven't heard from her since, So I think, I don't know, I lost that. I mean, she must have. We didn't put money on it, but,
Well, I think you, so far, you've won the bet.
Yeah, no, actually, she needs to pay up, yeah.
And going back to coffee, what have been some major changes that you've noticed in your time involved with it?
You mean at Urban or like generally?
Just your whole time generally, before Urban, throughout Urban. Have there been any major changes? I know COVID probably had a few effects on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've really appreciated observing like the increase in plant-based milk. This is kind of an obvious one, I guess, but like it's sort of seen as I remember my very first job, I don't know, as in coffee when I was like 19 or 18. you know, the strange thing to do would be order a skinny one.
Skinny.
You know,
Yeah.
like in 2011. And then if you're a vegetarian, maybe you'd order soy. But nowadays, it's so commonplace to order like a oat flat white and then like a bacon sandwich. You know, it's just for the taste. So that's been something really interesting to see over in terms of
I think
products,
over half the drinks are different kind of milk.
Yeah.
stuff,
I remember
What's-
persuading people to like, have you tried
Yeah.
oat in 20
Yeah,
like
yeah.
17, 18? And they're like, oh my gosh, no.
Oats just
I don't want
not
porridge,
crazy,
you
is
know,
it?
like
Have you had any really strange requests?
uh
Has anyone asked to mix the milks together or something?
I mean, one time someone ordered a half decaf, half regular flat white.
How did that turn out?
You know, I was happy to charge them for it. You know,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like it's not something like I'm not like a purist to be like that's not a real. You know, like
Yeah.
just give them what they want. You know, but yeah, that's definitely been the weirdest one. Or I think there was this little phase in 2019 of like putting like butter in this like bulletproof espressos.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't
I tried.
haven't
How,
made one
how
since.
does that affect the flavour and everything?
Flavor wise, I don't think that's what they're going for. They're going for like a shot of like
Fat.
calories to sort of
see.
kickstart their metabolism.
So
or
is that on
something.
top of the milk as well, or is that just like a
I
shot
guess
with butter
I don't know.
in
Would
it?
you just like treat it like a macchiato, but
Yeah, with
butter instead?
Chuck butter in and
Yeah.
blend it.
I don't know. I never tried it myself.
I tried it.
You tried it?
Yeah.
Was it okay?
What
I
were your
mean-
thoughts?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. It makes
But-
you feel so sick that you don't want to eat for the
To
rest
each,
of the day.
yeah, maybe that's
why
what.
people do it.
Yeah, okay.
You
Maybe
feel
that's
so
what
sick.
it is. Yeah, okay.
Have you tried that other trend with orange juice in espresso?
Is that the thing on TikTok that
Yes,
they've been doing?
yeah.
What's that?
I haven't tried it.
There's this thing going around at the moment with a shot of espresso and orange juice inside as well. No, you haven't tried that?
I feel like that's just.
I haven't
Sounds
wanted
very
to give it a
strange.
go, but it's interesting. It seems to be a divide at the moment where a lot of people love it, a lot of people
Really?
hate it.
Test that out, but it doesn't sound very
Yeah.
very nice.
It doesn't sound appetizing. Put
Sounds
it that way.
extremely acidic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Wow.
So going back to the milk as well, what's your favourite type to steam? So obviously they're all quite different in the way that they turn out.
You know, I'm usually quite pleasantly surprised by the almond ones. I think the brand we use kind of it finishes
It's okay.
the coffee really well.
Is that down to flavour or just purely it's nice and easy?
I mean, it's
to-
nice
What
to-
about the new
art
soy boy? How does that compare to
This-
the old Bonzo?
Oh, compared to the other,
Yeah, steaming.
yeah, steaming wise, it's much better. I mean, with the bonsoi, in other shops we used to like steam it together because it was
So bad to steam.
like the latte art was kind of a wash. Like
Blob.
you'd be really lucky if you got anything, but a lot of the time, especially with specialty coffee, like the more acidic the espresso is, the more likely the soy is going to curdle.
Yeah.
So that's what we were doing. But yeah, the soy boy is. I remember seeing them at the coffee festival. They're really proud of how their drinks, their product performs in the coffee. Yeah.
And for anyone who's kind of getting into specialty coffee at the moment, have you got any recommendations for what to do when you're starting out? Obviously, someone, let's say, walked out of Starbucks, didn't like the experience anymore. They've walked past our shop, walked in.
Yeah.
It's completely different. Obviously, the vibe and everything's a lot more Aussie. It is specialty coffee, so there's a huge difference there in not only quality, but also the type of roast and way we do everything.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for them to start off their journey?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, you know, because I would just say like, you know, your coffee experience belongs to you, really. Like you can, because remember I was saying like how I felt a bit like not cool enough to go into certain shops and like, you know, maybe just start out with what you ordered at, you know, a different chain. And see how a specialty shop does it.
Pairs.
You know how it
Taste
compares.
compares.
Yeah, or like, I feel like the longer I've spent with coffee, the more I prefer it just black. But you know that might be a bit weird to some people starting out. So just, I think you can't really go wrong with a flat white somewhere. You know, because that's really.
It's a good mix of milk, not too much milk.
You know, that's trying to balance everything good about a coffee. You know, so yeah.
Can you talk us about your experience as well? How did you actually get into specialty coffee? So let's take it back a few years.
Yeah, I mean, it all started back in Australia. And when I moved over here, there was hardly any places around. So there was a couple of places I used to go on the weekend and grab a good coffee, and then I'd go back to my desk and during the week and just drink rubbish coffee. And I used to get mad, and then on the weekend I'd find a good place to go. So that's kind of how the journey started. And then I thought, right, when I left the banking and my gyms, I thought, well, let's give it a go, and so I can have good coffee every day.
Nice.
Kind of got the vision of you there having a lovely flat white on the weekend. And
Definitely. I used to go to the guys in Borough Market.
Yeah,
they've been around for years, and there was the Aussie guys, flat white in Soho, I think they were, and there was only about 3 or 4 different places, I think, that I'd go to. But it used to be a weekend mission, right, let's go travel 45 minutes to get a coffee, sit down, have the whole experience. Because, 10, 15 years ago, there was just very, very few places. Now London's got lots of options, which is good. Yeah. But it's still a long way to go compared to, say, Australia, where the big chains, Starbucks, I think they've got one store in Sydney, that's it. They tried to come and dominate, but the Aussies wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
So they in Australia, they just like that local coffee, prepared by the same barista each day.
And Andy, your experience actually getting into specialty coffee, did that start at that job for you, or was it something you explored before? Because
where are you from? You're from...
I'm originally from Bolton, near Manchester, but I've spent first half of my life in Thailand / India.
Did you get any experience of coffee out in the Asian countries?
Not really. So much. My school was surrounded by a large tea plantation.
Yeah.
So, but no, not really. Although the specialty scene in Thailand is kind of taking off now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Japan's huge as well, right?
Yeah, the new roaster at the Tate is Thai.
Really?
So he'd be a good person to ask about that scene.
Yeah.
And where did it start off for you? How did that specialty journey start?
Yeah, it would have been with at this Greek shop in Homerton. Kind of has a cult following there.
What's it called?
It's called 46 B Espresso Hut. I hope I can not get in trouble. But
that's fun.
They have really popular with the paramedics there. So I spent a few months there, and before that I was working at a chain, Joe and the Juice, which were maybe you could consider slightly better than your average chain, but still a very chain mindset when it comes to coffee. Dark roast coffee, just smash them out. But it was at this Homerton shop, and it was all about precision. It doesn't matter if
It's still around?
I think so. Yeah. I think the owners have been featured in one of the main, I think, caffeine magazine, and a couple of times.
It's quite famous sponsor.
Really good shop. And so it's all about precision. It's all about really extremely good quality espresso. So that really kind of got me started. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned Joe and Juice as well.
Yeah.
How does your experience there compare with your experience here at Urban in terms of the way they do their coffee, in terms of how we do ours?
There are some crossovers, So at Joe and the Juice, they are quite passionate about their single origin coffee. It's all grown in Honduras, from the same farming co-op. And so in that sense, they have a lot of sustainability perspective there, and good wages, good prices for the coffee. So comparatively though, it's a dark roast, so it's built to, it's made to be long lasting and consistent. And I would say the training at Urban has for the baristas is definitely more in depth, in terms of not just memorizing the espresso recipe, but actually understanding it and understanding why it's important to have a balanced espresso and not just oh, it looks good, that's fine, but like
yeah.
is it are you getting what you want out of it? Are you getting the acidity, the body, the sweetness, the creaminess? So yeah, I would say that's more in depth at Urban.
So on our previous podcast, we had someone called Ben Prescott. I don't know if you've met him, but he's done all the branding for us over the past year. We have weekly meetings with him. So we spoke about quite a lot of things with branding. At the end, I asked him to leave a question for the next person, which is yourself.
Super, yeah.
So the question he wants to ask you is, what is your favourite thing about the Urban Baristas branding and why?
Okay. I haven't thought about this too much, but I think it's the meme quality / like sometimes it's a complete disconnect with the British London consumer, like what the Aussie like saying is, or what the Aussie intent is behind the branding. So like, for example, we've got "Good Day" on the mugs, or "Good Day" on the front rug as you come into the stores. And then I just love like the amount of time it takes for the customer to be like, "Is this an Aussie shop?" It's like, it's always just like a joke to me to be like, I don't know, like I can.
So
let me Google it for you.
The customers mentioned the "Good Day" thing.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not in a sense it's branding, but like
it is branding.
That's
definitely.
But
part of the language that we use.
Or like in lockdown, under the hand sanitizer or under the hand soap, it would say "Waltzing Matilda" instead of "Happy Birthday," stuff like that. Like little jokes like that. I find I really appreciate about the branding, but at the same time, it's like it's not the branding fault, but it's like the humor for me is how long it takes people to click that, in the shops. So but
it's a good answer. I'm sure Ben will probably enjoy like hearing about that.
He likes those the mats with the "Good Day," doesn't he?
Oh, for sure. I think we've got one arriving downstairs not too long.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes without saying the visuals are great, and like the photography and what's been going onto the website's been super good quality. So yeah.
And for you, for the next person, what question would you want to leave them?
Oh gosh, I would say, what's been your best / worst experience in a London coffee shop? You can go either way with it.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to take that and throw it at Hugh at the moment and see what he says.
Best / worst coffee.
Or like experience, like, could have been ignored in a queue. Could have been...
I mean, it's so hard because I haven't been to too many other coffee shops recently, apart from Urban, but I guess just, nothing against the big chains, but just going to one of those airport chains when you're going travelling and you just need a coffee you've got an early flight and you have no choice but to go to some of those big chains and just you get a flat white and it just comes out burnt and hot and undrinkable, and you're just like, why did I just waste £3? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
have you ever found yourself in the position of taking it back to them and saying, I just can't drink this, can you remake it?
No, I mean, it's not worth the hassle, but like then I always get mad at myself and it's just like, why even bother? I might as well just drink some water and be tired. But yeah, I think travelling is what, looking at some places, I went to France on the weekend and just, there's a little bit of a specialty scene over there, but just, finding a good cup of coffee is just nearly impossible. And obviously in the morning you're at the hotel and you try and get a good coffee and it's just from a machine and the milk's disgusting and just like you try and drink it and then I'm like, no.
Well, Andy, that's a great question. I'm going to throw that at our next guest.
No worries.
So next week we have a special guest and co-founder John Bauman coming on to talk about his experiences starting Urban. So stick around and hear his journey to date with Urban. Andy, thanks so much for coming on today and thanks for making time.
Thanks, it's been fun. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.